Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel again. Today I have a very special guest.
My name is Ibrahim Khan. I'm from Detroit in the USA. I'm an English teacher and a freelance journalist.
That's great. Today we're going to talk about English tenses. Ibrahim, can you tell us which tenses we're going to talk about today?
Yes, we're going to talk about the present tenses, which are present simple, present continuous, present perfect, and present perfect continuous.
That's very good. Okay. So we have four tenses to talk about present. Let's start with the present simple.
Okay, present simple is a sentence structure used to talk about now. The actions that are happening right at this very moment, such as I am in the room, he is here, they are in the kitchen.
So we use to be to talk about something which is true right now.
Yes.
And which is happening. We are here, for example, you are here, and I am here.
Correct.
All right, how about present continuous?
Present continuous, the key word that I'd like you to remember there is routine. This describes actions that we are doing now and we expect to continue to do into the future, such as I am studying Turkish. I am studying Turkish now in the present and I expect to continue studying Turkish into the future.
That's very good. Now let's talk about present perfect tense.
Okay, present perfect. I would like you to remember unchanged facts, okay? So if something has happened in the past, but the information is still true today, it is still a fact, then we would use the present perfect sentence structure, such as, I have got a car. I bought the car in the past, and still until today, I have the car. So the action, though it happened in the past, it is still true today.
All right, that's great. And the last tense, as you mentioned, present perfect continuous.
Yes, present perfect continuous is a sentence structure that we use to talk about something that started in the past. It is happening now also, and we expect that it will continue into the future. For example, I have been having headaches. Okay, so that lets us know that the headaches presumably started in the past. I'm having headaches up until this moment, and I expect that they will continue into the future.
All right, that's very good. Now let's talk about the form of each tense that we talk. Can you also talk about the formula of each tense?
Okay, for the present simple, the verb to be comes in three forms: is, am, and are. Okay. However, when you're speaking of using the present continuous sentence structure, you need the verb to be in its three forms that are determined by which pronoun you are using. So we need am, is, or are, plus a verb that ends with ing. Am having, is eating, are studying. Okay. So they need to be followed one by the other. The verb to be plus a verb ending in ing.
All right, sorry.
Okay.
I was just interrupting you.
Okay.
How about I was about to ask you about present perfect structure and also present perfect continuous.
Have been plus a verb ending in ing. Whereas with present perfect, we need has or have plus a past participle. A past participle, often in English we see those words as being written, driven, or taken, but they need not be ending in en. They may very well end in ed. Talked, played, worked. I have worked. He has talked. We have finished. Okay? So it could be with an en or an ed. What makes it a present perfect structure is have or has is followed by a verb, a past participle.
All right, and it might be difficult for our students to just remember those past participle words or verbs. And what is your recommendation or suggestion for our students to memorize and use them in their daily just conversation?
Okay, what I highly recommend with learning English is that you become an avid reader because English is a very mixed language. We do not have very rigid rules determining when a suffix is used or when a prefix is used. So the best way is to find a subject that you like to read and try to read that as much as possible. However, if you go on the internet or you're currently in an English class, what you'll notice is if you turn to the back of the book, there's usually a verb table. It will have the verb in its base form, in the past, and you will also see right next to it the past participle. So for a quick, fast reference, you could look at these verb tables in the back of your textbook, or if you go to the internet and just type in the search box irregular verbs, you will pull up a lot of verb tables from many different sources, which are also quite reliable, and you can print them out and keep them in your notebook with you.
All right, that's great. And to be honest, a lot of non-native speakers, they may think that it is difficult to learn, memorize, and use irregular verbs. As a native English teacher, I want to know, and a lot of people want to know, how it was for you when you were learning English as a child. Was it easy for you, or was it difficult?
I found it quite easy because the region that I'm from in the US it's called the Midwest, which includes the states of Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and that area. We're also bordered by Canada, and so what I observed is how we learned English in the classroom. There was very, very little variation, even in the everyday vernacular speech. However, I imagine it might be more challenging if you live in an area of the country or the world where dialects are more influential than the standard English form, such as in the American South, the states like Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, and those places. The dialect it diverges quite heavily from the standard English. So maybe it's challenging for people in those areas, but for myself, I found once I was able to make the connection between what was written, what was taught in the English classes, it was sort of a reinforcement, if you will. Class reinforced what I heard every day, and every day reinforced the class. So I found that quite easy. So if you don't happen to live in an area where English is spoken in the standard form, I do recommend some movies. Not any movie. I find that the movies older than 1980, what I noticed in those movies, and I'm speaking particularly of American, British, and Canadian movies, is that there's not as much background noise or music or sound effects such as explosions or noise from another activity going on like that. Usually the actor will speak and the actor's voice is sort of the centerpiece of what you're hearing, and then any music or other background noise usually starts after the actor speaks. So it's very easy to follow. Also, in the older movies, there was a tendency to use standard English. You rarely heard, for example, the southern or western dialects of the United States in movies, even if a film was taking place in that area. Before about 1980, you did not hear it as much as the standard form of the language.
All right, so a lot of language learners can use movies to just develop their English. And how about English tenses, these tenses that we have talked today? How can they use, for example, films or movies to develop their language in terms of tenses?
Okay. Well, what I do recommend, there are some sites that, along with the movie, there are scripts. You can actually download the scripts. Many radio stations, such as NPR or National Public Radio, you can download the script. So as you are listening to the broadcaster, you can actually read and see exactly what is being said, which is really great in case you have dialectical influences in how the broadcaster speaks, or there is simply new vocabulary for you, and you would kind of like to have a very clear picture on the pronunciation of that word. Downloading scripts is extremely helpful and a valuable practice.
Ibrahim, I have another question.
All right.
And in some languages, we don't have these 4 tenses to talk about present.
Okay.
Why do we have 4 tenses to talk about present things?
Okay. In English, there was a concern that evolved over a period of time with all the different cultures that contributed to making the English language. And they're concerned with giving information that is very time specific, so that if you are listening to a particular narrative, a story, or an incident that happened to someone, you have a very specific set of structures that allow you in your mind to formulate activities that are happening right now and only right now, actions that are happening now but will continue in the future, actions that happened in the past but are still true, and actions that happened in the past, happening now, and are ongoing. So listening to a narrative, those sentence structures help you and allow you to identify and follow a story in a more coherent fashion.
All right, that's very good. Okay. And another question that I have, sometimes my students ask me for the exact translation of the tense. Okay. Do you recommend translating English tenses?
No, I think that this should be avoided like the plague, okay? Simply because what will happen if you become overtly reliant, and if you're studying any language, try as much as you can, somewhere between that beginner and elementary stage, to begin to think in that other language. Because if you become reliant on translation, what will happen is you develop bad, or I won't say bad, but your sentence structures tend to be awkward. Your sentence structures tend to perhaps be even unintelligible. For example, I studied French for a number of years through middle, high school, and my early university years. And it was right around grade 8 and 9 where I had a very good teacher who told me, you're doing well, however, you need to put that dictionary down, okay? And you need to start trying to think more in French than thinking in English and produce French sentences. So when I began to start thinking in French, it became much more easier, much more natural and relaxed. Because what was very difficult for me was trying to translate a common French phrase like ça va, and the answer, ça va bien. Now if you translate that to English, what do you have? Ça va, this going. And the answer, ça va bien, this going well. Now in English, those are unintelligible ideas. The first question you would get is, I don't understand what you mean. So when you let go of your dependence on your native language and try to think with the language that you are learning, your sentence structures become more fluid, and there's even a certain amount of creativity that happens when you let go of the need to try to translate every word, because it simply doesn't work.
Right, that's very good. And thank you so much for your unrivaled suggestions and recommendation. All right. I hope this video helps you just improve your English. And I hope also it helps you use different tenses just perfectly.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. And I hope, by the way, I forgot to just tell everybody, if you have any questions, don't forget to write in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to read them. And if you have any questions that you want to ask Ibrahim, don't forget again, write your comments below.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Hope to see you again in my channel.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.